Right now, somewhere, a stadium is holding its breath. One player, one ball, 90,000 people. He's done this 100,000 times in training. And right now, his hands are shaking. He takes the walk, places the ball, steps back. And here's the strange part. This isn't his skill failing him. It's his skill working perfectly, aimed at exactly the wrong thing. Because the more times you've done something, the more automatic it should be. Bulletproof, untouchable. So why does the biggest moment of his life make him worse at the one thing he's best at? And it's not just him. You fed this exact thing. The test you'd studied weeks for, gone blank. The speech you'd rehearsed, suddenly clumsy. The one conversation you couldn't afford to fumble, and your mouth stopped working. Not when it didn't matter, only when it mattered most. What's happening in that moment, and what a University of Chicago researcher proved about it in a lab, changes how you think about your body, your focus, and every big moment you were sure you blew because you just weren't good enough. Because the world's best penalty takers on earth miss for a reason nobody talks about. And it isn't nerves. Start with what choking was always supposed to be. For most of history, the explanation was simple. You got scared, you weren't tough enough, your nerve broke when it counted. That's the story every coach, every teacher, every parent handed down. Weak mind, get over it. There was one problem. When scientists actually tested it, that story fell apart. A researcher named Beilock spent years studying people failing under pressure, athletes, students, musicians. And she found something that made no sense under the old theory. Choking doesn't hit the unprepared, it hits the experts hardest. The more skilled you are, the more of your ability pressure can strip away in a single moment. Beginners barely choke, they have nothing automatic to lose yet. It's mastery that's fragile. Which means it was never about being weak. If you're the kind of person who's ever blamed yourself for freezing at the exact wrong moment, subscribing is one click, and it genuinely decides whether these videos keep getting made. So if it's not nerves, what is it? Here's the first piece. When you learn a skill deeply, a penalty, a piano piece, driving a car, it sinks below conscious thought. Your body runs it on autopilot, faster and smoother than you could ever run it on purpose. Beilock's experiments showed what pressure does to that. When the moment gets huge, your brain does the worst possible thing. It turns the spotlight of attention back onto the automatic skill. You start consciously monitoring something that only works when it's left alone. Scientists call it explicit monitoring. You might know it as paralysis by analysis. It's the golfer suddenly aware of his own hands, the speaker hearing every word as it leaves his mouth. Expertise runs in the dark. Pressure switches on the lights, and the machinery ceases. Then there's the second piece, and it comes straight from the penalty spot. A Norwegian researcher named Jordet studied decades of real World Cup and European Championship shootouts, thousands of the highest pressure kicks ever taken, and he found the misses weren't random. Players facing the worst pressure rushed. They placed the ball and hurried their run-up as if the goal was to escape the moment rather than score. Some looked away from the keeper entirely. Jordet found the players most afraid of how they'd be seen. The ones with the most to lose in front of the most people were the ones whose bodies tried to flee the spot. Put those two together and choking stops looking like weakness at all. It's your mind pulling focus toward a threat and your body trying to get out of the spotlight. Two ancient survival reflexes firing at the worst possible time. So what actually pulls that trigger? What decides this moment is dangerous? The answer is one word. Watched. Not the difficulty. Not the stakes on paper. Being seen. The same penalty in an empty training ground is easy. Put eyes on it and the whole system changes. There's even a fossil of that in our language. The word panic comes from Pan, the ancient Greek god of the wild. The Greeks believed his presence could grip an entire army with sudden, senseless terror that made them break and run. A whole crowd frozen and scattered by the feeling of being watched by something bigger than them. We still carry his name every time the moment gets too big. Because for almost all of human history, being watched by the group was life or death. You lived in maybe 50 people, and your standing with them was everything. The hunt everyone was counting on, the fight the whole tribe could see. In those moments, your body didn't want you experimenting. It wanted you safe, careful, aware of every eye on you. That awareness was protection. The stakes were real, the audience was real, and being watched genuinely could decide whether you ate or were exiled. So the brain built a system that flags everyone is watching as maximum danger and floods you with focus and self-consciousness to match. We call it joking. We call it a weak mind. We treat it like a flaw in the person, but it isn't a flaw. It's a spotlight reflex, built for a world where being watched by your 50 people actually mattered, firing now on a stage those ancestors could never have imagined, a stadium of 90,000 strangers, a comment section of millions, an audience that will forget you by morning. Which means the player frozen on the penalty spot isn't broken, and neither were you. That system did exactly what it evolved to do. It just can't tell the difference between a tribe that would exile you and a crowd that will move on the second the whistle blows. The cruel part is the twist. The more that moment means to you, the harder the alarm fires, so it hits you worst at exactly the moments you'd give anything to be at your best. But an alarm is not a verdict on who you are. It's just a very old system doing a very old job in a world it was never built for. Right now, somewhere, a stadium is holding its breath. One player, one ball, 90,000 people. His hands are shaking, not because he's weak, and not because he can't. Because 100,000 years of being watched by the ones who kept him alive are all filing at once, on a stage none of them could have dreamed of. Your ancestors felt this exact thing before the hunt, before the fight, in front of the only faces that would ever judge them. You feel it before a test, a toast, a penalty, in front of strangers who won't remember your name by Tuesday. And now you know it isn't proof that something's wrong with you. It's an old protection, pointed at the wrong century. So the next time your hands start to shake before the big moment, before you call it weakness, maybe ask yourself one thing. Who told you being washed was the same as being in danger?